Officer, am I under arrest? Because Who's Afraid of Little Old Me has me in absolute handcuffs.
So I leap from the gallows on a levitate down your street, crush the party like a record scratch as I scream.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Tea with Bree. If you're new here, this is an amazing place where we grab our tea, we girly goss, we talk about pop culture, pop girlies, we turn a 1-minute story into a 20, 30, 40-minute story sometimes, sweeties. Don't tempt me. Today, we're talking about Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, the song some refer to as the most iconic Taylor Swift song on the Tortured Poets department. And I'm just repeating what I've heard. However, I know I am still supposed to do my reaction to part 2. And y'all aren't gonna believe me when I say that I truly haven't listened to it yet. I know, y'all. I know, but something about, like, I was a kid who, if you gave me candy, I was gonna draw that shit out. Like, I was gonna eat 2 Skittles a day, and while all the other kids had eaten all their Skittles right away, I had, like, hoarded mine like a little hoarder. So maybe what I'm trying to say is I'm a musical hoarder. And so I haven't listened to part 2 of the album yet. I know. Disappointing. I'm disappointing in myself. However, I'm so excited because I basically have like a whole entire another Taylor Swift album to listen to. Eventually I will get around to that. But part of the reason why I cannot move on to part 2 is I feel like there is so much stuff in part 1 that I'm just like, how can I read more when I don't even understand the first half of the story? How can I read the second half, right? I'm still processing everything that we learned in the Tortured Poets department. I still don't have a great read on this album. It's like evolving in my mind every day the more I listen to it, which is compulsively queens. However, today's gonna be focused on exclusively the song Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. So buckle up, gals. We're going off-roading today. So I've seen a lot of discussion about Who's Afraid of Little Old Me online with people who've listened to the album, etc., etc. And I feel like we are getting a lot of the song wrong. So if we're titling this part of the video, I would call this What People Are Getting Wrong About Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. And I'm not saying you have to be a woman or identify therein to get the song, but potentially there is something to that. All will be revealed later. But again, to repeat myself, I think a lot of the interpretations I've seen of the song, they're like, the lyrics are kind of crazy. A lot of people are very afraid. They're like, what, WTF? Because I mean, some of the lyrics at face value are a little bit wild, guys. They're just wild. For example, let's say, so I leap from the gallows and I levitate down your street. So we're going full ghost mode. Like, it's an unhinged lyric. Point blank, period. And I think when you have lines like that, I've heard a lot of people say that this is just like another version of one of Taylor's revenge songs, and it's about Scooter or Kanye, and that this song would belong more on like Reputation, for example, than on the Tortured Poets department. And then there's the other take where you have lyrics like, you don't get to tell me about sad. And people are like, honey, you're a billionaire. What do you mean you're sad? You're a billionaire who reclaimed all her music, who's at the absolute peak of her career, dating a super hot dude with private jets, and you get to perform in front of like thousands of people every night. People will be like, honey, what do you mean you don't get to tell me about sad? What do you even know about being sad? And it's like, yeah, if you read those lyrics and just interpret them very, very literally and on the nose, just read them out without any of the emotional inflection or sentiment or production included in the song or any knowledge of being a woman in this world, then yeah, I guess I see how you could come to some of those conclusions. I mean, I'm disappointed, but I can see it. However, my challenge to everyone today is we need to be looking at Who's Afraid of Little Old Me in a deeper way. Okay, so let's get into reasons why I love the song, and then we'll discuss, I think, a better way of interpreting the song. Point number 1. This is a case where I think the emotion that she's able to put into the lyrics and the lyrics themselves and the production of the song are all beautifully synchronous. I think in a lot of songs, there feels like there's a lot of dissonance between the sentiment that the lyrics are sung, the lyrics themselves, and the production of the song. This would be a good example of I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, because she does that intentionally, right? She wants the production to be almost manic, which it is, and gets increasingly like more manic towards the end of the song. And the lyrics are like, I'm so depressed, I want to die. You know what I mean? But for me, and Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, her voice, the emotion that she puts in, the words that she's singing, and the production work perfectly for me. Another good example of this would be We Can't Be Friends by Ariana Grande. I thought this was another great example of like the lyrics, the emotion, the production, the backing vocals, everything really feels like that experience that she's describing, which is breaking up with an ex and how you can't really be friends. You're just not at that point yet. And maybe you'll never be at that point. For me, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me perfectly captures the zeitgeist that I think Taylor is talking about, which we're going to get into in a second.
Who's afraid of little old me?
Point two, why I love this song. It elicits an insane physical and emotional, physiological, you could say, response within me. I am gagged when I heard this song. And it wasn't like a grower, right? I said this before. Some songs are growers, some songs are showers, okay? Some are immediately iconic upon your first listen, and others take a couple listens before they become like absolutely legendary in your mind. For me, this song was an immediate shower. I listened to this shit once and I was like full body goosebumps all over me. I couldn't contain myself. I have listened to it more than any other song on the album. I listened to it at the gym. I listened to it walking on the street. I'm fearful it's gonna be my Spotify, like top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just because of how many times I played it. Point three of why I love this song. This was one of, I believe, only 2 songs on the album that Taylor wrote entirely herself. And this is iconic to me because her other 2 producers, obviously Aaron and Jack, are men. And there's something so feminine about the song and the subject matter that it discusses. And again, we're gonna get into that, but I think that's another huge part of why I love the song is like, it's truly just, it's coming out of her alone, you know? She didn't need no collaboration for this shit. And the last point of why I love this song is that it feels like something so new than what she's done before. I feel like the emotions that she's capturing are things that I've seen little whiffs of in Mad Woman, for example. This felt like a 40 levels up, right? This just felt like something so new. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it could just go on Reputation. She's just talking about the same old people she's always talking about. She just wants revenge on all these people. She's just like, poor little me. No, sweeties, that's not what's happening. That's literally not what's happening. It's about Kanye, it's about Scooter, it's about Scott, it's about all the people who've disempowered her, it's about her sexual assault trial, it's about all of those people, and it's about none of those people. And you're gonna be like, that doesn't really make sense. It will, or it won't, but most likely it will. It's really about the simmering pit of fiery lava that exists within a woman identifying person's stomach when someone yells out the car, nice ass, or when someone asks yet again at a party, you know, why aren't you married yet? Or when someone's talking about a doctor and they're just assuming that your doctor is a man and referring to him as he. It's about all of these little micro moments, which on their own aren't crazy, right? It's like if you just eat 1 scoop of ice cream in a day, that's not really much ice cream, right? But if you're eating 1 scoop of ice cream every day for your entire life, it's like the pit of ice cream that you've accumulated. Bad analogy, but hang with me here. So all of these moments grow and snowball into this feeling of what I'm going to call female rage. So I think a huge part of why I cannot get over Who's Afraid of Little Old Me and why I must keep listening to it compulsively on repeat and why I've played it for my boyfriend and I feel like he just isn't, he's not really getting it. He's like, oh, that sounds really scary. Oh, it's like the initial reaction is just, oh, that's scary. Or, oh, that's like, she's like kind of crazy, you know? And I'm just like, bitch, recognize. And again, as I said earlier in the song, some of the lyrics at face value do seem a little bit petty and do seem a little bit camp or strange, right? Almost like Blank Space, how Blank Space was kind of this like constructed story about this other person that didn't really exist. It's very easy to dismiss the lyrics at face value for being just like too much, right? Too dramatic. Sound familiar? Anyone here ever been called too dramatic or too loud or too whatever? The way that it feels easy to dismiss some of the lyrics of the song is part of this feeling of female rage. We're not really supposed to even feel, right? Growing up, anger was not like on the list of acceptable emotions for women. at least where I grew up, and most of my friends today, even though I live in a different part of the country in the United States, and I've also traveled a lot, lived in different parts of the world, and it's like there's a unifying thing in how women are like kind of supposed to be, and it's composed and it's put together, and you don't get too high and you don't get too low, because then you're crazy and then you're dramatic and then everything you say is just written off, right? It's like if you go to the doctor's office and you start crying, girl, ain't no one taking you seriously anymore. And I hate to say it, but that's reality. It's like female emotional expression makes people uncomfortable. It also has the unfortunate tendency to, the more emotional you are or the angrier you are about something, the more dismissive someone can be, right? You start to raise your voice even a little bit about something you feel emotional about, and everyone's like, why are you yelling? Even when we do have these emotions, what society tells us to do is just like repress them and deal with them and just go about your normal activities, right? And just ignore them. Like keep picking up the kids, keep taking care of aging parents, keep going to work, you know, keep doing all of these things and just, you know, just be fine. Just be okay. I'm gonna come back to the song in a minute, but let me get on my soapboxes, sweeties, okay? I haven't been on it in a minute. You know, actually that's not true. I was on it last video, but you know what I mean. As women, I feel like anger is not like on the list of acceptable emotions. And because it's not acceptable, usually we take our anger and we turn it into something else that's more acceptable. We turn it into guilt or shame or sadness, right? Those are on the list of more acceptable emotions for women to have. So something makes us angry, but actually we're like, actually I feel guilty about that because I was probably in the wrong. Or it makes us angry and then we're like, I'm actually just sad because now the friendship is in disrepair. It's like the anger always has to turn into something. It's not allowed to just like be and breathe. And I'm guilty as this is anyone. I rationalize myself out of anger all the time. And this isn't unique to women. I'm not saying this is just women, but I do think women are more easily able to relate to this song. But man, I'm not counting you out if you relate, honey. If you relate, then you're the most welcome here. Part of the reason that I love this song so much is that it does not rationalize itself out of anger or out of the emotions that you can feel simmering in the song. It's just very blatant about it. The song starts mad and it ends mad. It starts pissed and it ends pissed. Are you people keeping up with me here? The way she screams initially, who's afraid of little old me, is gospel to me. It is a voice from above. It is everything and more. It feels like in that moment, Taylor is channeling decades, nay, centuries of pent-up, unexpressed female rage and female anger and just screaming it and releasing it on behalf of all of us. She's asking a question, who's afraid of little old me? Bitch, it's rhetorical. All of you should be, is what she's saying. And to me, there's something so like empowering about that statement. And I know when you read it at face value, you're like, you just want to brush it off. Like, oh, it's kind of tacky, or oh, it's like, I mean, she's the biggest pop star in the world. Like, what does she have to be afraid about? And I'm so sorry if you're like, what do you mean Taylor's angry? What do you mean she still has this like pent up female rage in her? She has like everything. Sweetie, no. She grew up in a misogynistic world. She entered the music industry, a very misogynistic industry, working with a ton of men at a very young age as a young female. There is absolutely no way she came out of that unscathed. No way she came out of that feeling unbelittled. There were probably people in meetings commenting about her hair and her face and her teeth and her weight, yada, 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 all the time, constantly, from the age of 15. And she's also, you know, she's dealt with the sexual assault trial. She's dealt with, you know, being canceled. I just feel like dealt with all of these tabloids, right? Like I pulled a couple of the craziest headlines, but she's dealt with people commenting about her weight, people commenting about her friends, people commenting about everyone she dates. Every time she goes into a restaurant, everyone's staring at her and taking pictures of her. It's just like, there's an amount of anger that builds up on you when everyone feels like they own a piece of you or they have the right to say anything they want about you, right? So if you're saying like, what does Taylor Swift know about female rage? I'm saying to you, you're delusional, sweetie. What does any female in this world know about female rage? We know a lot. When she sings, and so I leap from the gallows and I levitate down your street. Again, it's kind of it's like giving Casper the Friendly Ghost, right? It's giving like haunted house vibes. However, I love this lyric because it reminds me of personally growing up in a world where you're always told to kind of like be less. kill off your anger, you know, kill off all the edges of you that aren't perfectly smoothed down, you know, like fix your hair, fix your makeup, look this certain way, take up less space, way less, you know, express less. It's just like less and less and less until you are a shadow of yourself, until you're just a mother effing ghost, right? I think a lot of the things you're exposed to growing up do kind of metaphorically kill your spirit. I remember getting called into a meeting when I was young, like 8th grade, with all these male professors, and one woman was in the room out of like 12 people, and they were like, you're gonna have to redo all your school pictures because we pulled up everybody's school picture and your shirt was too low. Reader, when I tell you I gagged, I was like, what do you mean my shirt was too low? My shirt was literally like this. Oh, my clavicle showing? Oh my God, it was a Gap shirt, y'all. It was a really cute shirt. It was really beautiful green, and it came down to like here in a square neck, and they were like, yeah, it's too low. And I was like, bitch, are you serious right now? It's just shit like that, where these early core memories for I think a lot of women are just a lot of being shamed. Sweeties, I'm sorry, but it's the facts. So I feel a lot of the anger, again, going back to the lyrics, kind of building in the song. So I leap from the gallows and I levitate down your street. She heads back to that party and she's like, who's afraid of little old me? She's like, surprise, bitch. Who's afraid of little old me? You all should be. Even in a world that tried to make me less and tried to make me weigh less and express less and take up less space, I came back and I was like, middle fingers to the world. Do you know what I mean? Just like absolute middle fingers up. You can again say, if you look at the lyric, you should be. It's like, isn't that petty and dramatic? No, that's called empowerment. It's called re-empowerment. Because I think about where I live in San Francisco and I have to walk down the street and I'm always hearing some dudes yelling some type of shit at me every single day. I have to walk down the street and I have to make sure I have my headphones in and my music on loud because I'm not trying to hear it and I'm not trying to deal with it. It is leering, it's disrespectful, and it makes me feel so angry, but I have nowhere to put that anger, so it turns into this like fear. And then it turns into anger again. It's like, why do I have to feel so afraid walking down a freaking street? What is the society that we live in that has to be the way things are? It's just infuriating that the fear that we have to deal with as women on like a daily basis. And so when she's like, who's afraid of little old me? You should be. There's like a reclaiming of like, I don't have to be the one who's afraid all the time. Like this time you have to be the one that's afraid. Are y'all tracking with me, or am I just like absolutely on my own here? Raise your hand if you are with me. So when I'm like screaming in my car, which I don't have a car, so what I mean is the bus that I ride, it's like, who's afraid of little old me? You should be. It feels like reclaiming this autonomy. And I'm even obsessed with the way that she repeats it in the main chorus. She's like, the first time she says, who's afraid of little old me? She's not screaming it, right? She's just saying it normally. But then the next time she says it, she's screaming it, right? She's like, who's afraid? I'm not even gonna do the disservice of trying to repeat it and sing it, but you know what I'm talking about. She's like screaming it. And this to me is very significant because ladies, we cannot say shit one time, am I right? We ask someone or we say no, and we say it in a respectful way, and we say it very calm and composed, or we say, I'm not going to do that, or we say, I'm not going to go there. And then we have to start mother effing yelling because no one is taking us seriously the first time we say it. Tell me where I'm wrong. So now we have to start screaming it, and then everyone's like, whoa, why are you yelling now? Why are you acting all crazy? Are you on your period? And I just love how this song leans the mother F into that whole sentiment. It's like, yeah, maybe I am crazy, but guess what? You should still be mother effing afraid because I'm still coming for you. I still got your name. So yeah, y'all, maybe I'm unwell. Maybe I'm reading into this all way too much. I don't think I am, but maybe I am. But to me, this is one of the most iconic songs on the Tortured Poets Department and one of the most iconic songs in Taylor's discography. It just is such an empowering, emotional, cathartic release, and I'm obsessed with it. And when I use it to run at the gym, I run like literally way faster on the treadmill as soon as the song comes on, because I'm just like, oh, everyone's going down. We are starting the fire and we don't care if we get burned with it, honeys. So anyway, that's my hot take. I think Who's Afraid of Little Me is the most iconic song in the world. And I said what I said, and I'm not gonna say it again. So I hope you all have a great week. I hope you all listen to Who's Afraid of Little Old Me a million more times. Drop your favorite lyrics from that song below. Tell me why you love it, and I'll see you all next week.